Tensions are escalating between India and Pakistan. India launching an attack on locations inside of Pakistan, and Pakistan now retaliating on Indian targets. For more, let's bring in Professor Tim Harcourt from UTS. Great to see you. Obviously, we know that this area has been an area of concern dating right back to 1971. Tell us about the significance of what's happening today.
Well, this has been a long time coming. India has always suspected that Pakistan has been basically fueling and supporting terrorists in Kashmir and have been destabilising India. There was an attack on India, a terrorist attack, just in the past week, and India said they would retaliate, and that's exactly what they've done. At the same time that we know that Israel has responded to the attacks on Ben Gurion Airport by taking out Yemen's major airport in response to the Houthis.
Yes, and we've been reporting on that as well today. Just in terms of that terror attack that happened inside of India-controlled parts of Kashmir, there were concerns that this was actually orchestrated by Pakistani terrorists. Pakistan saying that they're not ours, they have nothing to do with us. But watching over the past week now, as has been just such a massive push, hasn't there, to retaliate?
Oh, there has been, because this has been threatened for a long time. There's a feeling that Pakistan has never allowed India to live in peace in the same way that Israel's always suspected that Hamas and the Houthis and Hezbollah have all constantly been wanting to destabilise Israel, and that's the reason why Israel and India have a very strong diplomatic relationship. So it's been threatened for a long time, but this is where India's actually taken action and struck back in a proportionate way.
Now, we've got a third Indian aircraft has now been shot down by Pakistan, as well as many of the civilian aircraft across the region being told to avoid. They've closed down that airspace around there as well. These tensions have been simmering for quite some time. Do you think it was just what happened over the past week that allowed them to boil over?
Oh, I think the past week was the lightning rod, if you like. It's always been a tinderbox, Kashmir, and all sorts of tensions continually on the border. So I think it was a matter of time before there'd be an escalation. And of course, India for many years was almost non-aligned under the Gandhi-Nehru dynasty. At some stage close to the Soviet Union, it's more aligned to the US and the West now. And Pakistan has had its own internal difficulties, making it less reliable ally of the US. So I think India's in a stronger position in terms of its world support than it would have been, say, under Mrs. Gandhi and some of the predecessors of Narendra Modi.
Yeah, now we know, as I mentioned, that this is probably one of the biggest skirmishes we've seen since 1971. That led to the foundation of Bangladesh as a way to try and avoid this. But we've heard from the Indians that they had alerted the UK, the United States, their embassies in Russia as well, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. They've been keeping all of them informed about what they're doing. What do you think the White House will be hoping for here?
Well, I think the US has got closer to India in recent years, and I think there's a view that India and Israel are important allies against Islamic terrorism in the region. A lot of it, fueled obviously by Iran. So for the most part, I think India will probably get a pretty good reception from the US, and indeed India's got closer to the UK and some of the other Western partners in recent years in response to China, but also its own difficulties with Pakistan and the build-up of Islamic militancy on its doorstep and within the borders of India, as we've now seen.
You've mentioned China a few times. Just if you can explain to the audience where China sits in all of this as well. I do note that while airspace across the region has been closed, flight radar showing 2 Chinese commercial planes still flying straight through that region there too. Pakistan has grown closer to China, but in many ways so too has India, even though for quite a long time they were quite opposite on a lot of issues.
No, that's right. I mean, China shares borders with both Pakistan and India. China and India, both very big countries, as well as the geopolitical chess games that are going on. India and China have this enormous economic rivalry. With the Airport Economist India episode, we saw a lot of Taiwanese investment in Bengaluru and Chennai. So obviously the Chinese-Indian economic tensions are a factor, but also, they do share a common border with India, as China does with Pakistan. And we've seen China playing its role very carefully with respect to the Middle East and indeed in the Russia-Ukraine dispute in terms of their ties with Russia.
And the first time that we've seen this since 2019, of course. Let's have a listen to President Trump, who was speaking at the White House.
No, it's a shame. We just heard about it just as we were walking in the doors of the Oval. Just heard about it. I guess people knew something was going to happen based on a little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time. They've been fighting for many, many decades and centuries, actually, if you really think about it. No, I just hope it ends very quickly.
Hopes it ends very quickly. I think the remarkable words there, because President Trump came to the White House trying to obviously end wars. There were two already still going, obviously what's been happening in Gaza, but also Ukraine and Russia, with no sign of an end there either. What do you think about this? Is it likely to explode into a third war happening around the world at the moment?
Well, I think that's what Trump's concern is. I think he was trying to settle down Russia and Ukraine, and also allow Israel to end the war with Hamas quickly, so he could concentrate on his, economic rivalry with China. This adds a third complication for him with respect to India and Pakistan. And although his comments there sound like, well, this has been going on for centuries, I'd imagine that he'd be getting some soundings pretty closely from India, given India's role in support of Israel and against Islamic terrorism. So I'd imagine he'd be getting some important soundings from New Delhi.
You made an interesting point I just want to bring you to about the Houthis as well. The ceasefire that has now been announced by President Trump, that the United States will no longer be targeting the Houthis. But in terms of what's been happening at that airport, the pictures are pretty incredible there as well. Just talk to us about what's been happening there.
Well, as soon as it seems that Israel and Hamas might be working out something close to a ceasefire, the Houthis intervene, saying that they're supporting the Palestinians and Hamas, but ultimately they tend to disrupt negotiations. Now, we know that Iran is supporting the Houthis, as they are supporting Hamas and Hezbollah. So it might be that the Houthis aren't acting alone. They may be acting in collaboration with Iran to keep the Middle East conflict going. We don't know, but we do know that there was an attack on Ben Gurion Airport, the major airport in Israel, in Tel Aviv, recently. And Israel said, if you attack our airport, well, look what we'll do to yours. And you can see there, that's quite a substantial taking out of the whole airport and most of the aircraft in Yemen.
All right, Professor Tim Harcourt, appreciate your insights and jumping up for us here on Ticker as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Appreciate it.